What's up, everybody? Thanks for joining us for the first edition of 2024.
Absolutely. It's going to be great. We're talking Bill Cosby. We're talking skirt steak. And most importantly, we are talking about the right ingredients to make this year the best one ever on this episode of MC Unpacked. We're back.
We're back.
Back again.
That's right.
It's like the Eminem song has been ringing through my head. I've been preparing to sing that. I almost got the rap to do.
I wish you would. Can you do it?
Not all of it.
Okay.
I do love me some Eminem. If he was sanctified, I probably wouldn't even like him as much as I do currently.
Oh my goodness.
Well, we're in
back.
We're in this. The holidays are over behind
right.
us. But
this
you
is
know,
our first podcast of January.
You know what's not behind us?
What?
Is the weight that I gained during the month of December.
Wow,
it's in my behind, but it's not behind us. So
Perfect.
We got our workout in today.
Yeah.
And gosh, I'm already sore.
Me
We're
too,
crushing
a little
it. But listen, we got some things to talk about. I was thinking about, just the ingredients of life and what ingredients are essential to actually win throughout the year.
Yeah, because everybody is setting goals right now.
Yeah.
I think January is
shifting to new ideas.
It's like the time frame where you're starting to think about resetting and coming up with things that you want to implement for the year. That's, at least it is for me.
I was thinking about we have found recently a recipe that crushes, and it's a flank steak salad. And I'm going to tell you right now, legitimately, it's like Jesus, golf and flank steak salad, then everything else. And it's magic, isn't it?
Your priorities change all the time.
But the salad's so good. And it's actually skirt steak, but its marinade is an equal part olive oil, soy sauce, lemon juice, brown sugar.
Quick, write this down,
2 tablespoons or more, depending on your taste, of sriracha, some crushed garlic, rosemary, thyme, 2 hours in a freezer bag marinating.
Yep.
Pull that sucker out, dry it off, a little light dusting of Montreal seasoning, throw it on the grill for 10 minutes, maybe 12. Get that, let it rest 5 minutes, then slice it, and then throw it on. What do we throw it on? What do we throw it on?
We throw it on the grill.
We throw it. No, I already grilled it. God, it's like you don't even.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Do you even know how to podcast anymore? It's like
I'm out of
practice. We put it on arugula, and you make an arugula. What do you put on the dressing on the salad?
Just lemon and olive oil, a little salt and pepper.
Oh,
yeah,
holy
a little
cow!
Salt Bay
and a little Salt Bay action.
Yep.
Little Salt Bay action. And I'm telling you, it's one of the most healthy meals it's not the most. It's a primarily healthy meal. And the flavor will pop you in the face.
Here's what we're going to do. I'm going to have Pastor Carey put the ingredients and the directions in the comments of this podcast so that you can all have some flank steak salad.
All of the ingredients are essential to the flavor. All of the ingredients combined are what actually build this meal that our family loves. Brooklyn leaves tomorrow for London at the time of this recording, and one of the last meals she asked to have, not before she dies, before she goes out of the country.
Feels like that. It feels like death, guys.
Was this meal.
Yeah.
And if you remove an element of the ingredient, then it might be good, but it's not going to be great.
Right.
And I just thought, there are ingredients that help us with life.
Yeah.
There are ingredients that help us win in the year and win with what we're walking through, that supersede goals, resolutions, new things. It's just kind of like, these are ingredients that you and I have been taught, that we've learned, that we've adapted and grown with.
Some of them I think we just realized, wow, we've been doing this for over 20 years.
And then there's some things we realized we were doing things wrong. We got to make some adjustments.
We had to change those things.
And how do we find new skill sets and all that? So we did that. We thought, let's jot down, as I'm pulling up the timer, let's jot down a few thoughts, the ingredients for the year that can help people really win. Yeah. So this is like a how-to podcast. Yeah. So there's a lot of people listening.
Totally. All around the world.
We have people listening from all around the world. We got people in Africa. We got people in London. We got people in all through the United States.
Shout out to our pastors for the Movement Church in Otime
That's
and
exactly
Carl and
right.
Patience. We know you're listening.
We know you're with us. We love you. And all that to say, I thought, okay, so a lot of people listening and different ages. And so if you look at the red line, I'm trying to cue you up so I can set the timer, a little hint, hint, wink, double. I'll set the timer while you help unpack the red line, which is talking to the different people listening.
Yeah, so listen, you're listening, and we've got people of all different ages and walks of life. And so we're going to just share some of the ingredients that have worked for us to help make the year a success. And so for some of you, you're going to go, oh, that one thing they said, if I implemented that, it would make the biggest difference this year. And for some of you, you're probably going to be like, I actually could take notes on a lot of these and try to implement a couple of
them. And others could do this podcast because they're crushing totally these true. And maybe more. So the point is not, do you need every single ingredient for 2024? But the point is you might need 1, 2, or 3.
Yeah.
So find the one that fits you and rock and roll. So this is 5 layers of ingredients for your life. And we broke them into 5 different dimensions, okay? So we've got daily, weekly, monthly, annually, and auxiliary.
Can you explain auxiliary?
When I get there,
okay,
I'll
great.
explain it. Daily,
I had to ask earlier.
Weekly, monthly, annually, and auxiliary. Some ingredients to have in your life and with that frequency.
Yeah.
So let's start with daily. And I think we can probably crush this because we'll probably talk about some of the daily components in February that will kind of coincide with our series that we're in. But let's talk about these daily things.
Yeah, and I think for us daily, what we're going to talk about, it requires you to make a plan. And I can't remember who said it.
Probably me.
It was probably you.
Yeah. If you fail to plan,
if you don't plan it, don't plan on it.
Good.
Yeah, that's what I was
Our pastor's
going for.
wife said that all the time.
If you don't plan it, don't plan on it. And so a lot of what we're going to talk about, you're going to have to be intentional with making a plan. But I think for us, probably the number one focus that we have implemented into our life daily has been our time reading the word and in prayer.
Great.
And we do that every morning because what you put first prioritizes your life. And so we get up in the morning.
First matter.
It first matter.
Yeah.
And so we get up in the morning, and we've talked about this on the podcast before, but we get up and we grab our coffee and we put on some worship music and we sit down and we just spend time reading the Bible and praying and talking to God and really just taking time to foster that relationship with God.
Great.
We hear God through his word. We hear God through times of prayer and times of worship. And so that for us has become a daily practice, and you have to be intentional with it.
Yeah.
You've got to set your alarm early. You've got to make plans.
If you can't do it in the morning, you got to make it in a place that has priority in your life. And really the reason we say daily is because this needs to be something that you do daily because you're going to miss some days.
Yeah.
And the goal would be to get more days than not.
Right.
And so there's really 4 focuses within this daily schedule. There's a spiritual focus, a health focus, a mental focus, and a soul focus.
That's great.
Now, obviously you need to go to work. Obviously you need to pay the bills. Or if you're a student, some people might say, I don't want to go to work. Well, somebody in your household needs to go to work.
Yeah. Here's the deal,
Somebody's
guys. You got to
pay
work.
the bills.
You don't work, you don't eat.
Yeah. Or maybe you're a stay-at-home mom and you're watching the kids and your
That's
husband.
Work.
That is a full-time job and a half. But a spiritual focus is daily being the word and prayer.
Yeah.
A health focus is making sure that there's some exercise and a healthy, moderate diet.
Yeah.
And they're not diet like, am I on a new diet, but that I'm watching what I'm eating. And if that's not in there daily, then you're going to be in trouble.
Well, the scripture says our body is a temple of the Holy Spirit. And so how we steward our bodies really does matter. So taking time to exercise, taking time to actually plan meals so that you're actually eating healthy.
You're jumping ahead, but keep going.
I'm talking about the health focus.
Oh, no, that's cool. Go ahead.
It makes such a big difference in your life. And
this is what happens when I write notes and you just jump on. You just jump 3.
You went to number 2. That's where I'm at.
I did not go number 2.
Yes, you did.
That's not what we're talking about. Don't talk about potty on the mic.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, so spiritual focus, a health focus, and a mental focus, and that's education.
Yeah.
And what does that mean? Like that we're educating ourselves on an ongoing basis. So some of our listeners might be in school. Some of our listeners might be in college. But we have made it a priority to continue our education through reading, through podcasts. There's so many options out there. There's no excuse.
Right.
But even if you're listening to this is an education if you're choosing to be open to learning something. And so just creating a focus daily where you're educating yourself. And so that could be 5-10 minutes of reading. A life hack that I have recently found is during workouts. If I'm working out alone, I'll listen to podcasts.
Yeah.
I do audible books, but I can't do that while I'm working out. It's too distracting for me.
I can't do that.
But I also have found that it's about the long flowing locks of hair that I have, it takes me about 15 minutes to get ready for the day.
Yeah.
After a workout, including a shower, because it doesn't take much to shower this beautiful thing over here. But anyways, so I have found that during my getting ready, I'll throw a podcast on.
Yeah.
I got a little speaker that's waterproof. I put it in the shower. I'm getting dressed. I'm, brushing my hair and doing my hair.
Brushing your hair. Yeah.
And that's just a little life hack that I found. So it's not 30, 40 minutes a day, but it's 10 to 15 minutes every day.
Yeah.
And I build on that, and I'm just educating myself. Sometimes I'm not
doing that in the car
Yeah.
is always a great place. Going for a walk, getting some sunshine. That's what I was trying to get to with the health focus.
Yeah.
Is I think we all need a little bit of sunshine, on your face. And so just taking a walk and just taking time to educate yourself is huge.
Totally. And then lastly would be a soul focus. And by that, I mean, you need some downtime.
Yeah.
Now, I don't want to speak for everybody, and I don't want to speak in generalizations, but I'm going to. I can just tell you right now, most guys need some type of downtime or separation from the mainstream of the day before the family time, or at least at the end of the night. They just need a time where we actually have the capacity to think of nothing.
Yeah.
It's a brilliant, we're really good at it at times. And I don't want to speak for women. I
think it's probably depends on your personality, how you're wired. There's a lot of people I think that
depends on
that.
what happens in your day.
Yeah.
It depends on the pressures that your job provides. But I just know for me, my soul needs some downtime in the day. And what that means is, this is crucial, we're not burning the candle from end to end.
Yeah.
We're not burning from the candle from both ends, that we're actually going to make sure a portion of my day is scheduled for nothing, even if that's 30 or 40 minutes.
Yeah.
Even if it's to sit down and just watch a show, or sit down with a glass of wine and a book, to sit down and just mindlessly scroll, to sit down and read a book for entertainment purposes, but to just like literally shift gears.
For me, it's a bedtime routine. I just bought some bath salts so that I can take a bath and drink a glass of tea or a glass of wine, read a book, scroll on my phone, whatever, just to relax a little bit.
You set the atmosphere. That's good for your soul.
Yes.
Candles are lit. I'm not going to take a bath.
No,
to
you
wind
are
down.
never
I punch
going
a
to.
baby. I shower, but I don't want a bath. Unless we're talking about a date night, then that's a little different story.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
I'll remember that.
But I think it's important. So some of our people that are listening are just workaholics.
Yeah.
And your soul is dying as a result.
Yeah.
You need to take a portion of your day. Your job is not that important. You know how I know that? Because one day somebody beside you will have it. 100%. It will continue without you. Even if you're the founder of the company, one day you will die and somebody else will work there. So give your soul a 15-minute break, a 20, 30-minute break. And let me just talk to the spouse who's driving home from work. Maybe you're coming home to your spouse, or you're coming home to a family with kids. Have a conversation with the spouse who will be at home first and say, I'm going to park in the driveway for 15 minutes. I'm just going to chill for a second. I'm going to breathe. Like, just give yourself some space. And if you're the spouse getting that phone call, give them that opportunity. They need that because then if you take that break, you come in, you take a deep breath, and you give your family your best.
Yeah.
But you need some downtime.
Yeah.
Can I get a hollow?
Yeah, I think all those things you have got to be intentional with. You've got to plan for them. Spiritual time, time in the Word and prayer, actually being intentional with diet and exercise, finding something that's going to educate yourself, whether it's a podcast or a book, whatever it might be, and then being intentional with your soul, making sure that you're having time for yourself just to relax. I think that is crucial.
Don't, I just got to say this. I want to linger here for a second. Don't make that soul focus an excuse to escape.
Yeah.
This is not an escape.
Right.
This is a recharge or reset or relax so that you can be your best you tomorrow.
Yeah.
Pardon me, I'm burping. Or your best you tonight for your family or whatever it might be. So I think a lot of people could be manipulative of that. Well, no. Pastor Carey said I need to focus on my soul. Well, you've been playing video games for an hour and you're 37. You need to stop being an idiot. Get in there with your family. Maybe does that just make sense? A little general statement there.
Yeah.
All right. So those are weekly things.
Daily things.
Those are daily. Thank you, babe. Daily ingredients that I would just encourage you, find a way to weave them in. Why are you laughing?
Nothing.
Okay. Let's move on to weekly. And I think that one of the important things, the important factors to add to your weekly component of your life is you need dinners. Mm-hmm. And obviously our listeners, we range from high school students and college students to young adults who are single to married with no kids to married with kids, blah, 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 blah. So what I mean by dinners is if you are a family, if you are married, if you have kids or you don't have kids, you need to make sure that weekly you're getting multiple dinners in the week where you're just eating dinner together to be family, to talk about the highs and the lows, right? To have conversation, put your phones away and just to be a family.
Yeah, I mean, we do happy crappies, sitting around the table, highs and lows. Some people call it roses and thorns, whatever you want to call it. Just taking time to connect with one another and share the best part of your day, the worst part of your day. I think this gets challenging for families. I've seen when you've got kids that are doing
volleyball
multiple sports and all the activities. And so again, it would just be an encouragement to be intentional. Like, plan your week and
give an example of what you mean by be intentional with that specific. Like, we have volleyball practice at different times. So what would that mean to be intentional? I'm going to get a LaCroix.
Yeah. Oh, he's going to leave. I mean, to be intentional with that just means you're going to have to look at your calendar and figure out, okay, what's a time that our entire family can be at home together? What's a time that we can sit around the table together? And hey, maybe it's going to be a Saturday morning breakfast, or maybe it's going to be a Sunday afternoon lunch. Whatever it needs to be, you're just going to have to be intentional with making a plan to make it happen, because it's so crucial to connect with one another. And that's what I think dinners is all about. It's this idea of spending time with people that you love and actually making a connection.
Yeah, and I think the goal is not quantity of time, it's quality. So I think a great illustration of that is tonight. Our daughter goes to, Megan and I are the pastors of the best church on the planet called the Movement Church in, as Megan says, Orange County, California.
That's right.
And we have a student ministry that meets on Tuesday nights, and our daughter goes to that. And then we came here to record. But what we did is we got out of the house a little early.
We ate with the great-grandparents.
We went to dinner at like 4:58 p.m.
Not our great-grandparents.
Yeah, that's confusing.
Just all of our great-grandparents
are dead. And what she means by that is we ate dinner at 4:58 p.m. when all the old people eat. And if that's you, you are my people.
I love it.
My point is this. We knew we had a limited amount of time. And so we sat at the restaurant for just at 57 minutes.
Yeah.
But you know what we did? The last 30 minutes, we dreamed about how we're going to remodel Avery's room. And then we're in the car ride and she's getting excited. It's not about quantity of time. It's about quality of time. And so that might be the case for you.
Yeah.
Don't make excuses. Make sure you're having dinner.
Yeah. And I would just say that applies even if you're single.
Great.
And you're like, well, I don't have a family yet to sit around the dinner table with. You probably,
LaCroix.
There's some LaCroix. We're working on a sponsorship, guys.
Pampaloose.
You need to make some time to sit around a table and eat a meal with some good friends.
Yeah, great.
There's just something about connection, and there's something about the table. They're just sitting together, enjoying a meal, and actually connecting with one another.
Yeah.
And so we would just encourage you, make sure that's part of your plan weekly.
And if you're married, then you need to, one of those dinners needs to be a date weekly.
Yeah.
And if you're on a budget, then be a baller on a budget.
That's
and
right.
do a stay-at-home date. We talked about this before. Don't make excuses. So weekly, you need dinners. Weekly, you need church.
Yeah.
And listen, I'm not going to make disclaimers for this. Almost every major apostle told us, do not forsake the gathering together on a consistent basis. It's something about being in the room. If you have to miss or can't make it, that's why online's available. But online is not a substitute.
Right.
It is merely it isn't a supplement. It's a substitute.
Yeah.
So you can't make it there. I'm going to do online, but the goal is to get in the room, get my faith built, to be encouraged by other believers. I don't know a single person who will be consistently in church and their life will be worse for it.
Right.
They might have some challenges or struggles. Or
All
have
of
to
us
say
are going
no,
to have challenges.
sacrifices, whatever. But be in the room. Worship the Lord.
Yeah. There's nothing like being in the room together for worship. I mean, the atmosphere just shifts. It changes. And so there's something
the
about...
atmosphere is changing
that was old
now.
school. You brought that back.
The Spirit of the Lord. It's like elevation worship.
Wow.
That's like 6 years old.
I feel like I haven't heard it in a while.
Here.
But I like that song.
The evidence is
Pastor
all
Carey.
around. The Spirit of the Lord is here. Literally, I just wait for you to start talking and you
I know.
keep going.
And you
okay,
just
I'm not
keep
gonna sing
singing.
anymore.
Yes, you are.
I promise.
Ready, set, go. I really do believe that worship is crucial. Worshiping together, it builds our faith. It reminds us that we're not alone in this journey of faith. There's just something about being in the room. And so we would just encourage you, make church a weekly priority. Make it a priority for your family. Raise your kids in the house of God.
Great.
I promise you, Proverbs 22 says, raise up a child in the way they should go. And when they're old, they will not depart from it. And so I think there's so many people right now looking for self-help books, looking for podcasts, looking for YouTube channels to teach them how to raise great kids. And if I could just say there's one thing, raise them in the house of God. Plant them in church. Those that are planted in the house of God will flourish. It's a promise in the scripture. And so if you want to raise healthy, like amazing kids, plant them in church, teach them young to make that a priority, because it will be a game changer in their life and in your life,
That's
right?
Good. That's good. I'm about to burp. Can you keep going?
Yeah. So the next one is this. And actually,
Pastor, there it is. I just did it.
You
Go
did?
ahead.
Wow. Pastor Carey came up
Shrimp
with
tacos
this.
and a little cabbage, a little avocado cream sauce.
Awesome. That's really disgusting, actually, that you shared that.
Well, that's what it smells like.
Thank
The taco was better
Gross.
when I ate it than coming out in a burp. But
Gross.
this is
you
a new
share
one.
It?
Yeah.
Since you came up with it?
This is a new one. We've been, Megan has an addiction problem.
I do.
And I want to talk to y'all about it. We need help. Send help fast.
Wow.
She is addicted to her devices. And
I am.
Her device, not devices. No, I'm kidding. I'm not saying that for real. My point is this. So we've been trying to figure out, how do we limit and like mediate the amount of time that we're on devices, and devices meaning not am I answering a phone call that I need to or sending a text I need to, but
mindlessly scrolling
or
games.
Unnecessary emails or unnecessary texts or devices that are in the form of televisions that are we're watching shows or watching movies, and none of those are bad.
Yeah.
But I don't even have to say it. We know that they can be consuming. I know that because the newest thing to fast for any period of time,
social media.
It's social media. And every time you do, you're like, oh my gosh,
it feels so good.
Feels so good. And then the fast is over, like boom, and then you're stuck on it. So,
also, we just watched a documentary called The Social Dilemma. I know it's been out for a while.
Since 2020.
But highly encourage you to watch it, because it just makes you think twice.
Don't be sheeple. Watch it.
How much you use your device.
The point
right?
is this. Here's the challenge: is that if you could find a day for your home, whether you're single or family or married with no kids, a no device day.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is, okay, obviously, if you have your device and you need it for work, that's a different story. But from the time before you leave for work and when you come back from work, no unnecessarily, no emails, no social media, no shows, just actual, either read a book or spend time as a family, make it dinner night, whatever it is. Yeah. Just put the phone away one time a week. I just want to challenge you with that, because I think you'll find that at first it'll be challenging, but it'll actually create space for real conversation, for educating ourselves from so much
and
better
for
stuff.
Fun. We were never really game people. We have some friends who they like love games.
Yeah.
But we, in the past couple of years, just started playing some card games with our kids, and it is so much fun. And we laugh and we fight and we have a good time around the table. Yeah. But there's just some great things that you can do just spending time with one another.
Yeah. So weekly dinners, weekly church. I'm just challenging you, a new challenge. Weekly no device day. I told Megan, I was like, what if we just try this? She goes, my daughter's gonna be in London. I am not gonna not have.
That's exactly right. I will have my phone on
You can turn
me.
your phone ringer on and set it on the countertop and set it to where only certain people's phone calls and texts get through, and you can check it. And if it's them, then there's things to set up. There's apps for it. There's settings for it. Just give it a shot. So dinners, church, a challenge is no device day. And then lastly, weekly, you need to rest.
Yeah.
We've talked about this consistently, but I like to revisit it. The Bible refers to it as a Sabbath. It's taking a day where I'm doing no work, either paid or unpaid, which means I got to plan for it. I got to get chores around the house done. I got to do the shopping trip. That I'm taking some time to contemplate and be grateful for the things that God has done. I'm spending just a little bit of time in prayer. It doesn't have to be the whole day, but just maybe to start the day. Yeah. And then lastly, which I think is most important, is something that brings you what Pete Scarzaro calls joyful delight. And a little old school phrase, but yet when I say it, you can't say it without smiling.
That's true.
And what is it that brings you joy? And so, like, for instance, we wouldn't do a no device day on Sabbath because you find joy in looking at Pinterest and looking at things online and scrolling through Instagram. And so that does bring you joy.
Yeah.
I find joy in golf, which is just, it brings me joy, but I can't play golf every day. You can't scroll like that every day. So it's just what brings you joyful delight. So you want to bring that into your life weekly.
Absolutely. And I think that's something to note on this. Would you say that a Sabbath could be like if you're taking a weekend day,
Great.
Go into church, like when you go to
Yes.
church with your family.
Biblically, go ahead.
There's a lot of people that are like, I can't Sabbath because I have to go to church. Well, actually,
First of all, you don't have to do anything. You're not powerless. So let's just start there.
Yeah.
Second of all,
secondly,
never in the scripture was Sabbath without going to church.
Always.
And everybody shared in the work at Sabbath.
Yeah.
So it wasn't about not serving. That was part of it. If we're serving, it should bring joyful delight because it's attaching the unique design that is
how God
in me
made you
with building the kingdom of God.
Yeah.
And if not, let's find the right place. So stop creating the semantics with that.
Yeah, I just have found some people can get really pharisaical with
totally.
the Sabbath and like it has to be a certain way, and that's not the objective here. We don't want to be like the Pharisees. The objective is like, no, God wants you and designed you to need rest. He wants you to rest and designed you to need it. And so taking the time, being intentional, creating space to rest, creating space to do something that brings you joyful delight. You want to make sure that's part of your weekly
And
routine.
for some people, it might be a Friday through Saturday.
Yeah.
Friday night through, the Jewish custom would be sundown to sundown, right?
Right.
So like you would do a full 24-hour period. It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
Just the point is that you're consistently
doing that.
choosing a time that intentionally is your Sabbath, and you do your best not to let anything take that away.
Yeah.
And I'm just telling you, bring those things into your life weekly. They're ingredients for the good things.
Perfect.
So we've got daily spiritual focus, health focus, mental focus, soul focus. Weekly is dinners, church, no device day, and Sabbath. Let's talk about monthly.
Yeah.
These are kind of like the things that are needed, but you don't necessarily need to do them on a daily or weekly basis. And I think one of them that is crucial, whether you are young adult, married, or single, is you need a house management meeting once a month.
Yeah.
And this is not a date night. This is not in fact, if you're married,
Don't do it
not
on a date night. Don't do it.
budget night on date night.
Take our word for it. Don't do it.
Unless you want to hate each other for the entire, waste every dollar you spend on the date. But this is where you need to look at, I want to suggest, if I can put a pastor hat on, you need to manage your calendar at minimum at a monthly look. If you're not, then your calendar's running your life.
Yeah.
And you need to run your calendar. You are ridiculously in charge of your life. What you say yes to, what you say no to. Every yes has a no attached it to something else. Every no has a yes attached to it to something else. So can you control your calendar? Now we look at it weekly. Right. Our life is pretty full and pretty scheduled. So I'm not suggesting that. At least start monthly. Then you need to be looking monthly. This all can be the same meeting. You need to be looking at your budget monthly and making sure that you're managing your finances accordingly.
It's just wisdom in that, guys.
100%. And then like we were talking about with health, it would really be smart to at least take a look at your meal prepping monthly.
Yeah.
In other words, to be responsible, plan your meals and look, okay, here's, even if it's okay on Tuesdays, we're doing this, Wednesday, whatever it might be.
Whatever works for you.
Yeah, whatever works for you.
Yeah.
I just think, honestly, probably one of the most irresponsible things to do is to consistently eat out because you don't have a plan.
Right.
And no matter what kind,
been there and done that
we're guilty
so
of it.
many times.
And it doesn't even matter what type of income you have. It's just Look, listen, we talked about weekly. You need dinners in your life. Well, plan to have dinners, which means you got to plan the grocery store trip, all that stuff. So have a house management meeting, and then I want to say, you want to jump in on that with anything else?
No.
You sure?
I don't think so.
If you don't know how to do budget stuff, then Dave Ramsey has a great plan called Financial Peace University. You can't beat it.
If you really struggle with your budget, if you're really struggling financially, there's probably nothing better that we could recommend than Financial Peace University. It's by Dave Ramsey.
Yeah.
And it's going to challenge you to the core. But if you will apply the principles, it will make a big difference in your life.
If you're listening, you're living paycheck to paycheck. If it's like you're one step, then you need Dave Ramsey because you probably have more flex than you think you do. Just don't know because you haven't actually gotten some outside perspective on it.
Shout out to Dave. We're not even getting anything for that promotion there.
No, I like that move.
Shout
out to Dave. Hey, if you don't know how to manage your calendar, I feel like this is probably one of the biggest strengths that I have. And I can't help you because I don't know you. But if I do know you, I'll help you.
Send Carey a message.
Send me an email at megan@theocmovement.com. Okay, other monthly things that are just so essential that I think so many people let go on the back burner are hobbies. Yeah. And hobbies is such an old word, and I don't even know if Gen Z knows what that word means, but hobbies are something that don't actually bring any income to you. They usually take more time than you feel like you have, but they revitalize your soul. And I say monthly because sometimes you don't have the flex in your schedule to do hobbies monthly or weekly.
Sometimes hobbies are expensive.
Sometimes hobbies have to be budgeted for.
Yeah.
Some of you may have the flex to do a hobby weekly, but a lot of people don't.
Yeah.
But you need a hobby no matter what that hobby is, whether it's sourdough, bed breaking. That's it. Bed breaking.
You said it like
bed breaking. I did. Bread baking.
I would really love to make sourdough.
I'm going to get into it.
I think it'd be good for you.
Calling Jeff and Nicole Yeager. If you actually listen to our podcast and you hear this, we'll find out. I'm not going to tell you in real life. I'm ready for your 200-year-old starter. So let's get this show on the road. But that can be a hobby.
Yeah.
You know what could also be a hobby is meal planning and doing a kind of I can't think of the word, a dinner, extravagant dinner.
Okay.
Like you and I actually like that. We like to be in the kitchen together. We'll get a glass of wine. We'll put on some Frank Sinatra and we'll make
it an experience.
Right. Especially if we're having someone over. Yeah. And we enjoy that.
Yeah.
So that could be a hobby for you. It doesn't really matter.
I mean, it could be anything, right? You love golf. I love to go for
spend money.
Just hikes.
You love to spend money.
I really love to shop. That's why I said, monthly is great. Just throwing that out there, babe. Monthly would be awesome.
How about, quarterly. I like quarterly. The point is you need a hobby.
Yeah.
And this is something that it like rest and like a Sabbath, it just helps you get outside of the mundane. It makes sure that you're not stuck in the minutia and don't make excuses.
Yeah.
Find a way to make that happen. Third, that you need in your life monthly. And this could be weekly depending on the dynamics of your faith.
You just have to make sure it's there.
Right. And that is transformational community.
Right.
And I'm using
Explain what you mean by that.
Yeah, transformational community is vastly different than the dudes I like to go to Buffalo Wild Wings with. I don't do that. I'm just speaking hypothetically here.
I was like, what?
Like, it's not just about hanging out with your friends.
Yeah.
Transformational community is to have a faith community. If you're listening and you're a believer, I'm talking to you. If you're not a believer, permission to just continue listening. We love you with our whole heart. But you need a community of faith that's going to challenge your faith, challenge you to grow.
Yeah.
They know your kryptonite, like what's going to take you out. They know your warning signs that you're heading down a destructive path, and they have permission to say, hey, stop being a knucklehead. Yeah. Come on, I believe in you. They can call you and you'll pick up the phone. They're brothers or they're sisters. Right. They're another married couple who's got your back.
Right.
And you need it.
I think something to remember here, just scripturally, there's a verse in Proverbs that says, an enemy multiplies kisses, but wounds from a friend can be trusted. And I never understood what that meant until I really started looking at the value of transformational community and the fact that I think so many of us surround ourselves with yes people that are just going to make us feel good about everything. We're just going to have fun together. We're going to laugh together. They're going to agree with everything I say. And transformational community is the kind of friends that are going to challenge you. And maybe it's going to hurt a little bit. Maybe they're going to say, hey, knock that off. That's not the right way to be living. And that can be challenging for all of us. Nobody likes to be told when you're wrong, but you need friends in your life that are going to call you out, that are going to call you higher, that are going to say, I believe in you and you're better than that. And so I think it's important to know that those are the kind of friends that are really going to help you grow as an individual.
Yeah. And I think that if you don't have that in your life, you don't have real friends.
Right.
If you can have friends who might do that. If they're not in a faith community, then they're missing a key element.
Yeah, that's
true. And the
true.
element that you need is the eternal element connected to your soul and your spirit, which is the faith element. Yeah. So it doesn't mean you throw away your other friends.
Totally.
But you need some space monthly. At the Movement Church, they're called Connect Groups, and they happen every other week.
Right.
So that's why I said monthly. So it's twice a month. But you can create that frequency, but what you need is consistency.
Yeah.
Some of my best friends I'm on a podcast with now, we record monthly, we'll be releasing it at the beginning of 2024, and they are my best friends.
Yeah.
And we are in a text thread. We are talking at least 3 times a day, and that doesn't even count the amount of reels that we send to each other on Instagram. And we hang out 3 to 4 times a year. And when we hang out till 2 and 3 in the morning, and we're consistently, this is going to sound crazy, arguing with each other.
Yeah.
And the name of our podcast is Tell Me I'm Wrong. because through our conversations and debate, and because we've given each other permission to speak in each other's lives, our lives have grown as a result of not needing people to say yes to what I want them to say yes to, but to love me for who God's created me to become.
Yeah.
And you need it in your life.
Yeah. So listen, if you are in the Movement Church, make sure you check out a Connect group. If you are plugged in and planted in another church,
you probably have a group.
I promise you there is something for you to get connected to.
Totally.
It might be called a small group, might be called a Connect group. I don't know what it's called, but find it and find some people to grow in your faith with and do life with. That's going to be transformational. It's going to be a game changer for you.
I love it. So monthly, we got house management meeting, hobbies, transformational community. And lastly, I would say monthly, you needed a change it up day.
For all the spontaneous, I can't say it.
Sammy, Swami, Samsonite.
Why do I say it?
For all the spontaneous people listening. They stopped listening at a house management meeting. They're out.
Yeah, they're gone.
They're like, God, get me out of here.
Tuned out. For all the spontaneous people that don't love the house management meeting, this one's for you.
Actually, no. This is for the rigid calendar dates we have to stick. This one's for you because the spontaneous people in your life are dying.
Yeah, but the spontaneous
Why are you pointing
people,
at me? You're like,
the rigid calendar.
Go ahead.
I'm saying it's for you. It should get you excited. We're challenging you to change it up. Like, do something
What does that
different.
mean, babe? For us specifically, what does that mean?
Okay, for us specifically, it's like we have a routine. We manage our calendar. We live very intentionally, but every once in a while, I just need like something spontaneous. Like,
what do you need specifically?
I love to go to the beach.
Yeah.
Let's go to the beach and
let's get sushi and go to the beach.
Yeah.
Let's go exploring around the cliffs in Laguna at low tide.
Yes. Let's drive to San Diego and eat at a really cool restaurant.
And drive back. We'll spend more time in the car than the restaurant, but
it'll be an adventure.
It's different.
Yeah.
Let's not, if we're on date night, you don't want to go to the same places. You want me to change. You want me to surprise you.
I want to do something different.
Yeah.
And so you can't do that all the time.
No.
But you know what? Once a month,
you can
do that.
And it doesn't have to be Megan spontaneous.
Right.
It just change it up.
Just do
and some
different.
of you, unfortunately, I'm so sorry for you. Some of you don't live near a beach, and that's a bummer.
That's a sad thing.
Maybe you live by mountains or rivers. Get outside.
Hike.
If you don't live by mountains or rivers, and you just
if you live in the concrete jungle,
if you live in Texas and you're like, I don't want to go outside, go see somebody. I don't know, just change it up.
Go to a movie. Do something.
Just do something out of the ordinary. Change your schedule.
Yeah.
You just like, today we're not going to do dinner at home. We're leaving and we're going to go sit down and do a picnic and watch Netflix in the back seat of the the back seat in the truck of the bed of our truck. Now I've got I promise this is only LaCroix. I can't even talk. It's like I'm inebriated over here. We're going to go to the car.
You said
that sounds
seat of the
like Bill
car.
Cosby. This is the pudding pops.
Like we still have
the pudding pops.
Like we still have drive-in theaters or something.
I don't know. Your spontaneity overwhelmed me.
I know.
I was overwhelmed with your spontaneity.
I know. And listen, I know that it's changing it up. It's fun for people like me who like to be spontaneous, and I know for some of you that is really challenging, like to throw the plan away for a day. But I'm just telling you, you need a little of that in your life.
Here's the secret. What spontaneous people don't realize is spontaneity requires planning.
That is true. It does a little bit.
You can't tell the spontaneous person you're planning to go somewhere. Just surprise them with the spontaneity.
I really, really hope that the podcast picked up your whisper.
We have a sound engineer.
Okay, I hope they're really skilled.
$700 mics. They'll do just fine.
Okay, because otherwise it was a lot of silence.
They got it.
Okay. Good.
When we went to Rome, Megan got asked to speak at a beautiful church in Ireland, and it was the year she was turning 40, which we celebrated for 365 days.
We did
and she had been dreaming about the opportunity to go to Italy, and so the air flight was covered. You got an honorarium, and so we were able to tack onto that trip a trip to Italy, which is so cool. And it literally cost us hardly anything out of pocket. And we had a list of all the things she wanted to do, and she wanted to go to Rome. And I was like, okay, let's do this and this and this. And we had gotten this major fight. And she's crying in the hotel room.
I don't know if these details are accurate. Maybe
it doesn't matter what you're saying.
Okay.
This is 100% accurate. All the guys know that I'm right because they remember these moments.
I mean, I'm not saying that hasn't happened before.
You're crying and you're upset and you're like, I don't want to have a plan. I just want to get lost in Rome and find a place to eat. And I'm like, oh my God.
Sounds like a line from a movie, but I really did. I wanted to get lost in Rome.
We're in a foreign country. And so anyways, all that to say, it dawned on me there. I'm the planned, rigid, follow thing with as few exceptions. I can be spontaneous, but
yes, you can.
I realize if I plan spontaneity for you, it'll actually breathe life into you, and I still feel a semblance of order. Some would call it control. I call it brilliance. And so sometimes it takes planning.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things that require planning. So if you're going to go on a
great statement, Megan. Somebody write that down.
It's profound.
There's
guys.
a lot of things that require planning. Keep going.
No, I'm just in agreement with you. I mean, if you're gonna go on a spontaneous day trip, you probably are gonna have to be intentional planning for that. And
Totally.
so
Great.
I agree with you, but change it up.
I think we beat that
Do
one up.
something different.
Change it up. So we talked about daily spiritual focus, health, mental, soul focus, weekly dinners, church, no device day, Sabbath, monthly, have a management meeting, make sure you work a hobby in there, transformational community, and change it up. Now remember, we're talking about ingredients that will help you, but some of you listening, you've already got half of these or all these. So what's the one you need to add to your life? Some of you are like, oh my God, I have none of these. Okay, what's the one you need to add? Yeah, and make that the one that this year I'm going to be consistent at that. No matter where else, just pick one of them.
That's right.
Add the ingredients. It's going to make a difference. Okay, let's talk annually.
Yeah.
You hit that first one off.
Yeah, so vacations or vacation. It is just so important that you take time to get away from your daily life at least once a year. And so I know that this looks different for everybody because taking a vacation, it could be expensive. And so
I'm on a vacation from my problems.
What about Bob?
Yep.
Vacation.
I'm sailing, Dr. Martin. I'm sailing.
I'm only thinking of lines from What About Bob right now. If you haven't watched that movie,
Baby steps on the elevator.
That's right. But taking a vacation, you're going to have to be intentional with it. When we were young married, we really didn't have a huge budget to do vacations. And
young
so,
married.
Gosh,
for half our marriage, for 3/4 of our marriage,
But we would just get creative. I remember specifically growing up when my family didn't have a budget to go on a vacation, to go to Florida or to go, to somewhere with the beach. We lived in Texas at the time. And my parents planned this 2-night stay at this hotel in Fort Worth, Texas. And we went to the Fort Worth Zoo. And you guys might think that is just ridiculous, but I remember it to this day. We had the best time as a family, and it didn't cost my parents a fortune, but we took time and we were intentional to take a family vacation. Yeah. And so whether or not you have a family or maybe you're single and you need to take a vacation with some friends, do something fun that's going to fill your cup that you enjoy. Whatever it looks like. I love a beach vacation. It is my favorite thing in the world. And there's nothing like sitting on the beach, reading a book all day for me. And for some of you, that would bore you.
No, smoking a cigar. Go ahead.
There you go. But find what you like and make a plan at least once a year. Budget for it, plan for it,
sacrifice the budget for it.
That's right.
And if you can't afford it, do a staycation. Don't make excuses. Single, married, kids, no kids, it doesn't matter. Make sure it's a priority. And if you can do 2 weeks, do 2 weeks.
Yeah.
I guarantee you there's a really good chance the majority of our listeners have plenty of vacation time. Yeah. Just take the time. Make sure you're vacationing. You need it. Your loved ones need it. If you have those that live in your home with you, your soul needs it. But make sure you take vacation. Yeah. Another thing you need, and really that's kind of where we're at right now, is you need an annual reset button where you take some time. If you're a believer, you fast some stuff, that you get a spiritual alignment, and you hit. I think January is the best for that, where you just reset and you relook at things and you go, okay, I'm going to cut out of my life a chunk of things for a chunk of time, whether it's 7 days, 14 days, 21 days, 30 days, doesn't matter. But I'm intentionally resetting and recalibrating and refocusing. It's like a hard reboot on your phone or your iPad. All of technology needs that. It needs a power down and then a reboot. It just makes the device work better, and your mind and your life, it works the exact same way. So make sure you take time. This is a great time to do it at the beginning of the year.
Yeah, January is a great time to do it. And really part of that, you said spiritually focusing. I think just asking God, what do you want to do in my life this year? What are you speaking to me about for this year? I just taking the time to do that is so important.
That's
what
great.
Are you grinning about?
No, I just was thinking about our intro I'm going to record.
Oh, gosh.
We'll see it later. Okay. We record the intro at the end of the podcast.
Okay. All the information you're getting.
Keep going.
Another thing you need to do annually is take time to just dream and plan.
Great.
And we say this because it's so easy to get caught just running the plays. It's so easy to caught just walking through the motions, to get caught walking through the motions. And so you need a time at least once a year where you sit down and you dream big about what the future looks like. Maybe it's 3 to 5 years out and you're just like, where do I want to be in the next 3 to 5 years? What are my hopes and dreams for our family, for myself, for what are some of the goals I have over the next 3 to 5 years, and just creating time annually to actually let your mind wander and think about what are some of the big dreams that I have for my life.
Because if all you do is look at the mundane of your life or just a few steps ahead, then you'll slowly stop to dream. And when you slowly stop to dream, you slowly start to die internally because you were created to dream.
Right.
God's a giver of dreams. And by dream, what we're not meaning is trying to dream how to become the next billionaire.
Right.
What we mean is what are the dreams that are in your heart, the things that you once talked about and dreamt of, and maybe they've morphed or evolved. Okay, well, let's make those a reality. And maybe they can't be a reality in 2024, but with some planning, some strategies, some sacrifice, maybe they can in 2026.
Yeah.
Well, let's get to 2026 and see some dreams accomplished instead of get to 2026 and be discouraged to dream again because I haven't done anything to work towards them.
Yeah.
So you need to take some time to dream and to plan, or you're going to slowly die on the inside. And this is for everyone, whether you are risk averse or you are just you like the consistent marginalized schedule, or you are the dreamer, then you need to add to your dreams is some plans.
Yeah,
so
that's true.
Make sure that annually you're taking some time to do that. Megan and I do that every year in the fall. It's getting a little earlier and earlier because of how our church calendar works, but we usually take the August, September time frame and really just get away and dream for our family, dream for our church, and just go, God, where are you taking us? So I just can't recommend that more. So vacations or vacation, make sure you get a reset in there annually. Right. Make sure you get a time to dream and plan. That can be at your house. It can be at a hotel. It doesn't matter. And then lastly, annually, you need some big moments that create memories.
Right.
Now, this is where you can take some big steps that aren't necessarily a vacation. Like this past year, a great memory for me was you gave me Coldplay tickets for my birthday, and it was a bucket list for me. And, the experience started out so rocky.
Oh, my gosh.
It was a train wreck. We'll tell you that another time. Yeah. But the show was magic. We had killer seats. And then at the end, we got a personal escort from the chief of police in Pasadena. Sirens and lights, just me and Megan being escorted 60 miles an hour through Pasadena. We weren't in trouble. We had the greatest time. It was a memory, and we'll never forget it.
Yeah, it was.
And, those are the kind of things that you need. I'll never forget taking Avery to see Frozen at the Pantages in Los Angeles. And she had just played Anna in her school musical. And I'll just never, I'm pretty sure she gave COVID to Los Angeles in December of 2019. But those are memories. You need those that happen on an annual basis. It doesn't have to be huge.
Right.
Just something a little bit bigger. It could be a concert. It could be a show. It could be a weekend getaway that's not a vacation. But just you need some big stuff like that. Listen, we are life forms. We need some life in us and not just the same old same old.
And I know there's some people that are not show people, and they're maybe not going to take a big fancy weekend getaway, but there's some of you that love camping. And we've got great friends, and they've made some of the best memories. They've taken our daughter Avery with them and just camped out for
drove right down the street to San Clemente State Beach and camped out
and made s'mores and sat by the campfire, and it was such a great
told
memory.
Stories
so
and
it can be anything.
Now you and I will not be doing
That's
that.
not going to be me. I'm going to be somewhere with a restroom.
We've got some other friends who every year for 2 days they get away to Palm Springs, which is not too far from here, and play some golf. It's not a huge vacation to do it on a weekend. You need some stuff like that.
Make some memories.
All right. Now let's talk auxiliary. So when why I can't believe you didn't know what that meant.
Well, okay, I knew the word, but seeing it in the context of what we were talking about, I was like, I don't think I know what you're saying.
Fair. Well, it means to provide or adding supplementary or additional help and support. So in other words, this isn't something that's going to be in the weekly. Daily, weekly, monthly, and annually, it's going to be as needed.
Right.
And it's going to, save this for last. And what do we always say for last?
The best for last,
Yeah, we
guys.
say the best for last. And probably some of the bigger things and I think when I think about the majority, okay, we've been in ministry for how long? Since 1998. So that's 26 years now for me in full-time ministry. And then over the course of that time, I've had the honor and privilege of pastoring thousands of people through the course of that time.
Right.
From teenagers to adults to parents of teenagers. And
we've seen the highs and the lows, and
we have stories we could tell you that would blow your mind. You would say, there's no way that's true.
Yeah.
That we have just seen that are awfully ugly and absolutely beautiful, all in between. And these last four, I feel that I see them missing so consistently with people that I kind of want to shake some people and say, please make sure that this is an additional support or help for you throughout the year. So thanks for hanging on to the end of this podcast to listen to everybody else who bailed early. That sucks for them. They're missing out. So let's talk about that first one. Let's talk about that first one.
Couple auxiliary things that we think are so crucial for your life. Number one would be therapy. I think for a long time that was something that people avoided. I think it's more common now to talk about therapy, but we all need therapy. It's sitting down with someone and getting insight into how we're wired and what we're processing, and whether it be past traumas or hurts or pains or how to navigate the current situations of life. Every single one of us needs help with that. And so taking the time and being intentional to seek out and get therapy. Now, I would encourage you, if you are a Christ follower, I would really encourage you to look for a Christian therapist.
Non-negotiable.
This has become a really popular thing to do in our culture, and I just don't know that all the advice that is always given lines up with the Word of God. So I would encourage you to find a Christian counselor, but make an investment into your soul. Your marriage might need this. You might need this in your parenting. You might need this to deal with your own personal hurts and traumas, but be intentional and actually seek out some therapy.
Yeah, a couple key things too. If you're married and you're struggling in your marriage, then you can't go as an individual. You need to go as a couple. Yeah. But some of us that are struggling, whether you're married or single, it's because as an individual, I need to navigate through some things. You might have to go to multiple therapists until you find the right one.
That's true.
If you're a Christian and they're not a Christian therapist, then don't even waste your time with it. It's a waste of time. And then lastly, therapy is not the solution.
Right.
Therapy is a tool in the tool belt of emotional health.
Right.
It is not the only tool. It is a tool. And so I actually am not a huge fan, with a few exceptions, and next few exceptions would be big T trauma within the last 5 to 10 years. I am not a huge fan of ongoing therapy for more than about 6 months at a time, because you need to talk through it, live some life, process through it, work it out, and then say, okay, maybe I need to go back. This is not something you need to go to for 3, 4, 5 years in a row. If you're there still, unless it's something that is...
Unless there's some big
ginormous trauma, which would be...
You probably won't be able to classify all
That's
of
a valid
them.
point.
So.
But that's a valid point. So the qualification of big T trauma is life-threatening experiences. And so that doesn't mean what you've experienced isn't little t trauma, but I want to not confuse it. Thank you for bringing that disclaimer. I can't qualify all of them, but before you say anything else for a second, I do think it's important to know, okay, if you've been going to therapy for 5 years, we might need to look at a new therapist. We might need to evaluate, are you actually working on some stuff and moving forward? So
yeah, that's good. You should be able to see some growth, some steps that you've taken forward. That's great. Okay, another thing that just is crucial to building a flourishing life is just scheduling some time with some life-giving friends, just people that you love to hang out with and that bring you joy. I think that can look like so many different things. You talked about your friends that you record the podcast with and that we get to see occasionally. I didn't know if you wanted to jump in.
Yeah, totally. I will. Totally.
Yeah.
This is different than transformational connections with friends. So this is like you need to have in your life monthly that transformational connections with people. But this is some friends that just fill you up. And you need to have some friends where you just belly laugh. Like you laugh until you cry and it hurts from laughing. That you just hang out and there's no drama. It's not fake. This is just, man, you leave going, that was just, I needed that.
And sometimes those might be transformational
Absolutely.
friends. But they're not always. Sometimes it's just friends that you love hanging out with, that make you laugh, that you can have a good time with. And
sometimes you need to remove the intentional component and just make it a hang session.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got a group of guys that we just connected a couple times, and we talked about doing, we need to hang out more often. We need to do this more often. And finally, one of the guys was like, "That's it. I'm going to make sure this happens." Gets us in a text thread, and he was relentless with setting a date. And we set a date, and now it's become a monthly thing. We don't get to it every month, but about 9 months of the year. And my God, it fills my cup. Yeah. I go there and I have the best. I don't have to be anybody.
Right.
I'm just me. We have the best time. We laugh hard. We make stupid jokes. We act like 14-year-old boys at times.
Yeah.
But I've found that I've got multiple pockets of that in my life, and I feel rich as a human because of those friendships.
Yeah.
And it requires intentionality.
Yeah. All of
so
this
you
does,
might
right?
you might have to plan a night. Maybe it's once a quarter.
Yeah.
And you get your girlfriends together and you hang, and it needs to be life giving. This isn't like get your girlfriends together and bash your husbands. Yeah.
It needs to just be fun. Yeah.
But you need that in your life. It's a game changer.
That's great.
So we've got therapy as a key auxiliary. Some scheduled hangs with life-giving friends is a key auxiliary. And then I think another one is spiritual rally points.
Yeah.
Like you need this. They're not going to necessarily be every month.
Yeah.
They may be annual. They may not. But you need to weave them in there as spiritual rally points. So what does that mean?
I like to think of it like a defibrillator to your soul. Like just something to just charge you up and remind you of who you are, remind you about what God says about you, remind you about what God's doing in your life. And really, I think there's just something about
what does that mean, though? Like
I know, I'm going there.
Okay.
So a spiritual rally point would be maybe something like a conference. We do a women's conference every year right now out here. And I just love gathering with a group of women who come together with an expectation, like God's going to do something big. And there's always a moment there that is a catalyst. Like it's like, you leave just empowered and reminded of who God is. And maybe it's a word that God speaks to you, and just it fuels your spirit for the upcoming year.
So it's not a Sunday service.
No.
It's not a small group. It's not replacing those things. No. It's auxiliary. It's an additional thing that kind of, like you said, it defibrillates. It shocks you into something or inspires you into something. There's a lot of single guys thinking, I'd like to go to a conference full of women.
I bet. But this year we're doing a man camp of some sort.
We are.
Absolutely. I think it's
We've got
same
student
thing for
conferences for teenagers. There's enough conferences around to find something. It just is a great shock to the system, a reminder. And usually when you go there, you go with an expectation, and God meets us at our expectation. It's always a pretty cool thing. So definitely think that's an auxiliary thing to add to it.
Yeah.
And then lastly is you need godly authority in your life. And I think that this is in the current cultural moment with so many people blaming church hurt for everything.
Yeah.
This is evaporating in the church world today, and it is something that is exceptionally needed.
Yeah.
And that's not the right word, but it's needed of epic proportion. Now, it's been abused.
Yeah, it has.
Authority, when it comes to spiritual, godly authority, it's been abused. There was seasons where it was just gross what was happening, and maybe you've had a horrible experience of that in your life, or maybe you have some church hurt. And I get it. We've walked through toxic environments, and I could tell you stories, but I won't. So I know what that's like. But it doesn't, just because I have a bad experience, or I find myself in a scenario where godly authority has been abused, doesn't remove the power of godly authority in my life.
Right.
And so let me explain what I mean by that. And the reason this is auxiliary is because you're going to hit moments in your life, whether you're single or married, whether you're in high school, college, it doesn't matter, whether you're an empty nester or you are nearing the end of your life, you're going to hit moments in your life where you are up against a mountain.
Yeah.
You're facing a giant, and you need, in those seasons, in those moments, somebody who is a spiritual giant in your life that you call and say, can I just get some advice from you?
Yeah.
Spiritual authority, no human on earth, gosh, I'll be careful. What we're not saying is they're giving you permission to make a decision for your personal life. What you're giving them is permission to speak to your life in a way that you value it immensely.
Yeah.
So you are saying, hey, I'm facing a crisis financially. I'm facing a fork in a road, and I'm not sure which way to go. I'm facing a dynamic I don't know how to handle. Mm-hmm. Will you speak into my life? Give me some insight, and I am open to what you have to say.
Right.
I'll take what you have to say, and then I'm going to go. It will be a value in my processing of making a decision.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be the only value.
Right.
It's a tool in the tool belt of your spiritual, physical, and emotional health.
Yeah.
And mental as well, I should say.
Yeah.
And I see that all too often people go to churches. There are pastors at those churches, but the people are not allowing the pastors to pastor them.
Yeah.
Or they're in groups, and they don't look to group leaders with a spiritual authority in their life. Again, not permission to make choices.
Right. But just looking for insight. It's looking with an open heart. It's being, I think probably some of the problem is that most of us struggle with humility. We all think that we know better. And so I don't want you to tell me what to do because I know better than you, and I don't want to have to listen to what you say. And I think that's something the Bible says, that pride comes before a fall. Yeah. And so I think that's something we can all evaluate is, am I willing to humbly say, I might not have the full picture here, and am I willing to be teachable and lean into and gather insight for my life, whatever the scenario might be. I think that's just a huge part of it, is learning to humbly be teachable and trust that God is going to position people in my life that have wisdom to speak into my life. And so I think that's crucial.
And the thing is this is what pastors do.
Yeah.
The Bible refers to them as shepherds, and in many church congregations, a connect group leader can also serve. They may not have the title or be licensed or ordained as pastors, but they could serve as a spiritual leader.
Yeah.
But I would strongly suggest, if you're in a church, there better be somebody in that church that you are giving permission to speak with authority, not permission to tell you what to do,
right?
But you've given them permission to bring insight and add value to your decision-making process. Yeah. That's the important part. And the reason I say in your church is because a church is not a LLC or a nonprofit organization. It is not an entity. It is an organism, a living organism. Yeah. And a pastor is praying for their people. Right. A pastor is praying that God does miraculous thing, that he does exceedingly abundantly above all that God that we could ask or imagine. And so we pray for our people on a daily basis, which, by the way, I'm not saying this because of people in our church. No. I'm just saying because I hear conversations over and over and over again. I go, did you talk to your pastor? Yeah. Did you call before you... Key is, before you made that choice, did you get some insight?
Yeah. You can say that because this is how we've lived our life.
There is not a major decision in my life. There is not a crisis that I've walked through there is not large challenges in our marriage that we did not both call the people who are pastors in our life, who have authority to speak, and we listen. And there was times where they said things that we didn't want to hear, and we listened.
Yeah.
And there was times where I'm diving into the depths of despair, and I called Pastor Kevin Goff, and he just reached in with the hand of compassion, just pulled me right out of the depths of despair with what he said. And he didn't tell me what to do. He prays for me.
Yeah.
So he spoke into my life. There's times when I called Pastor Scott Leelisher and just said, hey, I'm not sure how to navigate this thing. And he'd say, well, first of all, stop being a knucklehead. Yes, sir. Okay. What happened between you and Megan? This, and that. Well, why would you say that, Carey? You know that wasn't a problem. I know, Pastor Scott, you're right. There's been times when I'm just navigating this crisis of how do I look at the left and the right of this business, and how do we do? Pastor Dave, I need you to give me insight. And in 2 seconds, he has insight.
Yeah.
He's down the road from me. I don't mean physically, but like in life, he's seasoned. He has experience in his life. And I'm just telling you that my life, your life, is shaped by that spiritual authority. And none of those men have the ability to tell me what I can or cannot do.
Right.
But I've given them permission, and you've given them permission to speak into our life, that in what they say holds weight.
Holds a lot of meaning. Yeah.
It holds weight. Yeah. And I want to tell you, I don't mean to have a spiritual authority that you tell what you're doing, but bring your spiritual leadership in while you're in the decision-making process. Right. Because it may be, just maybe, there's some pain down the road that you can avoid by leveraging the relationships that probably God brought into your life.
Yeah.
That's why we choose a church.
Right.
So that we go to a church because it's a family. We go to a church, sure, we want to like good preaching, we want good worship, but it's a family, and the family has an order of leadership, and that's part of the role of a pastor. So if you're listening and you don't trust your pastor, and you don't know if you would go to them and talk to them, well, first you need to check yourself to make sure your heart is right. I didn't say that. Jesus said that. You need to evaluate and see if there's a humility issue, a pride issue, or maybe if there's a rebellious issue in you. And check that first, because we don't know if we struggle with rebellion until we're told, hey, don't do that when we want to do that, and then it like surges inside of us. So you need to check your heart first. And then second, you need to go have a conversation with your pastor or pastors or connect group leader, or maybe it's a leader of a team that you serve on, just somebody that has some spiritual insight with you. And then if that's still an issue and you can't, then you need to find a church where you can. Not that they tell you what you want to hear, but a church where you'll get your butt in there, be there consistently, jump in groups, be on a team, and then let somebody stinking pastor you. Because if you go to another church and you find that pastor's the same thing and the same issue, well, you know what the common denominator is here, my friend? It's you. And so obviously imperfect people lead churches.
Totally.
And it's not about a spiritual manipulation.
Right.
But I'm just telling you, to the listener, from the youngest to the oldest, when you're facing life-changing big decisions, so big decisions would be whether I shift careers or get out of the job I'm currently in to get another. Why is that a big one? Because if finances are on the line, then that could be a problem for it. A move to a different state, a move to a different city,
a marriage.
A marriage.
Yeah.
In fact, when we do premarital counseling, we don't just say, hey, we want to coach you through this. You have to give us permission to say, you know what, actually, we don't feel this is the best time for you to get married based upon what we're seeing. So if you can't trust that with us, then we can't start that process. Why? Because it's part of what we do.
Yeah.
To start families, to whether or not to start down that journey. There's so many different things. It could be a crisis that you face. It could be a health crisis, a diagnosis that you're up against, a fork in the road. What do I do? I'm just saying you want people in your life like that. Yeah. And this is not to speak subliminally to the people in my church. I'm just telling you, it's an ingredient that is needed as an auxiliary to have an amazingly flourishing life.
Right. Right.
And you can't do it without leadership like that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I hope that like in this conversation that there's been some takeaways for you, some things that you go, I actually need to apply that to my life this year. That's going to be a game changer because we believe in you. We're praying for you. We're believing that God has some just incredible things in front of you in your future. And so
ingredients to add daily, weekly, monthly, annually, and auxiliary.
That's right.
Listen back again and listen. If you're listening and something clicked, do us a favor, share this with somebody.
Yeah.
Send this as a text or share it, like copy and paste the link, send it on social media.
Yeah. If you like this and it's helpful to you,
subscribe, follow in all of the apps, whether it's Spotify or the podcast app.
That's right.
YouTube, click the bell. You'll know when new podcasts are dropping every 2 weeks. We're about to get in this whole new season. It's going to be great, but it is going to be awesome. And thank you so much for leaning in and tuning in for the first 2024 season episode of MC Unpacked.